Let's wrap up the week with something from a couple of days ago, because it'll be lovely to end up with a little bit of, you know, Mr. Luxon being a bit pissy when he gets asked questions about Pharmac funding. So this was on RNZ with Corin Dan a couple of days ago. You may have seen clips of this online. There's a couple of people who really clunked it down to its bare 60 seconds. We've got about 3 or 4 minutes to listen to here. And the question, because like we said at the start of the show, it's valid to say your position has changed so much on the paying for these drugs. The drugs are great. We still just want to know about how you got there. That's really what the conversation's about.
When did you make the decision to go with the current model rather than your election policy? Because obviously it should have been in this year's budget, not next year's budget. So when was that decision made?
Yeah, look, it's something that we've been working through over the last few months, actually, as to what's the best way to deliver it. But I'd just say to you, Corin, it's all very interesting talking about a process story. The great news is that this is a pretty unprecedented transformational historic investment. And I'm thinking of all the people that are actually going to benefit from it. And you and I will know folk that are dealing with cancer at the moment. I had 3 or 4 people in my head yesterday as I was making the announcement, thinking this is fantastic news. So, look, I mean, you know, the key thing is that I'm interested in is the new Prime Minister of a new government is that we deliver on our promises. And we made a commitment. We were very committed to getting cancer drugs. The means by which we delivered those ends was different. But the key thing is we even surprised, I think people were getting more treatments available, which is a really good outcome.
I appreciate that you are defensive of the process because you have faced a lot of criticism and you have acknowledged mistakes with the communication. But the timing is important. And it is important for New Zealanders to understand why you thought naming cancer drugs in the election campaign was a good idea, despite experts saying that undermines the Pharmac process. So it is important that we know when you made that change and why it wasn't in the current budget.
Well, what I'd say, Corin, and what was important is that we wanted to be committed to actually finding more cancer treatments for New Zealanders, right, in opposition. You know, that was our desire. We wanted to make sure that we could get drugs that were available in Australia to New Zealanders that would have a benefit for them. We could look at running and setting up a separate process outside Pharmac.
And you didn't think that would be undermining of the Pharmac process at that time? You thought you could do that without undermining Pharmac?
The basic premise is this, Joey. It's like we're going... I don't, and I guess when I say it's fair enough they do this, it's the political game. It's like we've got a great result, right? The team has won, but we're still interested in how the game was played, right? I can get up in the morning and see the score from the game last night, and that can be the end of it. Or I can want to watch the whole game and see how we got to that score. And in this, the country wants to know how you got there. And because it's our money, remember, we don't use taxpayers' money like an ATM. That's what you said, Mr. Luxon. We want to know how you got to get to the ATM and find $600 million. We're not just going to look at the score. We're going to look at the process to the score. Was it a good game? Were there red cards? Okay, my analogy is falling apart now.
And outcomes, Corin, we're really interested in outcomes and results. And so the means by which we deliver those results, they can change. But the bottom line is we delivered on a commitment and we actually surprised on the commitment. That's what matters to me. And so it's great in opposition that we had an idea of a proposal to deliver more cancer drugs to Kiwis. It changed by how we've actually delivered it. But that's not the issue. The issue is actually have we delivered on the promise and said what we would do for New Zealanders, and we have. And we've hit this and we've made a big, we've worked really hard.
It's not entirely true. They did what they did, sort of, but they had to do it in a new way. They had to pay a lot more money to get to their promise because they promised something that they couldn't deliver legally before the election. So, okay, so you did what you said you were going to do, but at a cost to the country of a lot more, which we're okay with because we want the drugs, but you're just not prepared to, you're not showing your workings, Mr. Luxon. You've got to the exam, you've just written the answers all the way through, and the teacher's going, show us your workings, and you're refusing to. It's not okay. I will find a third analogy before this is finished, I promise you.
To make sure we find a way in a process.
After a major backlash and a lot of angst for cancer patients who had been factoring this in the budget.
Yeah, and I just say, Corin, isn't it great?
Isn't it great?
The government has made a $12.7 billion investment in healthcare. we cleaned up a $1.8 billion Pharmac fiscal cliff. We put $600
This is where it starts to get a bit pissy. You can hear it.
And 28 other new medicines that are going to benefit 175,000 people. So isn't that fantastic?
Isn't that
Yes, it is.
fantastic?
And people, as I say, people have welcomed that. But there is criticism of, for example, of the funding here. You are putting this into the next budget. You've only got $2.4 billion in your operating allowance. You're now going to have to allocate some of that to this new announcement. Can you give a cast iron guarantee to New Zealanders that you will not spend more than that $2.4 million in your allowance, because the credit rating agencies are watching?
Well, I'll just say to you, Corin, we're a government that understands financial management and economic management, unlike the last crowd for the last 6 years. Yes, we've inherited a difficult situation. Yes, you saw our budget laid out in terms of what our intention is with operating allowances going further. Are there, in fact, more savings in government spending? Absolutely. Will that be daily practice? Absolutely.
Cuts.
We want to make sure every dollar that comes to government spending is deployed in the most efficient, best way it possibly can be. So there'll be an ongoing program of savings that we expect to come out of government spending. Yes, we know we've put ourselves on very tight diet on operating allowances, and we'll do what we continue.
Is that
to
a commitment to stick to $2.4 billion or not?
Well, yes. I mean, that's what we've said in the budget. We are working to make sure we deliver on our operating allowances, unlike the last.
Remember, $2.4 billion is what that's working allowances. So what Corin Dan is saying is you've already taken $600 million out of that, and you haven't even got there yet. So and he's pledging to stick by it. And of course, Labor bad.
This crowd that end up overspending them by $600 million on average each and every year for 6 years.
Okay, we'll hold you to that. Come budget time next year.
Understands economic management, Corin.
Okay, as I say, we and the credit rating agencies, which have warned after your budget that they are concerned about the ability of governments to stick to their operating allowances.
Just say to you, isn't it fantastic to have a new government?
Isn't it fantastic?
Economics, and will actually be better for New Zealand and make sure our economic and our fiscal situation.
I should point out that they did also note the tax policy as a factor.
Isn't it great? I mean, the fact that we've got hundreds of thousands of New Zealanders that we're supporting, low and middle income workers that are getting tax relief as well. And I just encourage everyone to jump on the tax calculator, see what your benefit and help is. Isn't it great that our government is able to save money, reprioritise money, invest in frontline services, and give New Zealanders tax relief? I think that's a fantastic thing.
I guess the only thing I'd say to that, Chewy, is, isn't it great? Now, just to show you how this is their new line, I'll give you 30 seconds of Simeon Brown from today. See if you can pick up on it.
But you do accept that it could be more expensive for people to be driving with the congestion charging than it would be with the Auckland regional
Well, I'd just say the regional fuel tax is getting removed on the 1st of July, and that is great news for Aucklanders.
There you go. So there's their new tactic, right? Whoever their PR team is, you have to go out and tell people that everything's great. If you tell them it's great, they'll believe you. Don't say, if you get given a question, even if you have to take too long a pause, Mr. Luxon, end up by saying, life's great. It's great. Isn't it great? Isn't it great? There you go, Joey.
Isn't it great that whenever these guys get a new tactic, that they stick to the script so fucking completely, and don't mix it up.
Yep.
It's like an amateur dramatics production.
And isn't it great that when they do that, we're the first people in New Zealand media to pick up on it, like the Ferries. Remember that 2 breakfast shows talking about the second-hand Corollas. Isn't it great?
What I would say to you, Pat, is that isn't it great that I've still got years of linking this back to the previous government? Just my God, this is a new and organic thought that I've just had.
Very good.
Christopher Luxon is not very good at this.
I think I've heard that somewhere before. I'm not sure where though.
It's funny because when you're not a politician and you spend a lot of time in middle management and deodorant company and inheriting an airline, and all you have to do is basically not fuck it up too bad.
Yep.
You don't have to field press questions a lot, and you're not very good at dealing with it. And when they keep on going, well, here's a question, and you pivot to your new tactic that the man with a clipboard told you would really, really work, and it doesn't work because you outright don't answer the fucking question you've just been asked, and the interviewer comes back for a second pass. He's still not falling for the "isn't it great" soundbite, and and you look confused, and you look off to the man with the clipboard, and he's going, "Well, fuck, I don't know, mate. Do the hits." Oh, what I'd like to say to you is, I think I've been perfectly clear. I'm a man made of preamble and no substance. Like the whole Pharmac thing. Yes, it's good that people are getting.
Isn't it great?
It's great.
It's great.
It's great, Pat.
It's fantastic.
People are getting their medicines. But what we're really concerned about here, and here's your third analogy, Pat. Sometimes it's important to know how the sausage is made. Was the sausage planned? Was the appropriate ingredients for the sausage procured ahead of time?
Was it
Were
roadkill?
the correct ingredients at all? Or was the sausage made by a panicked man who shouldn't be in the butchery, flinging meat randomly until a sausage appears? Because that's what this government feels like it's doing. It's working to a plan that isn't costed, planned out at all. Then people get really big mad, and then they fucking like raiding next year's budget because you forgot the promise that you made for this year's budget is mental. It's not good management. And the fact that these guys are still trying to hammer home the point that they're good economic managers is ridiculous. And it is insane that people still think that this is the party of business, the party of the economy.